Do you need a home inspection when you're buying a house in Cabarrus County, North Carolina, or anywhere else in the Charlotte area? I know this is probably not the most exciting topic you could think of to watch a video about on YouTube, but hey friend, welcome. Somebody asked me to talk about this, and so Lee Brown is here to talk about it because home inspections might be one of the least sexy parts of the process of buying a home, but absolutely are one of the best ways to spend some of your hard-earned dollars. Now, when you're buying a house, you should know that the money's going to leave your pocket at certain times. In North Carolina, you will drop a check for a retainer fee for your buyer agent. You will drop a check for the due diligence deposit when you purchase the house. That's the non-refundable portion of the deposit. You will then stroke another check for the earnest money deposit, which sits with a trust account somewhere, whether it's with one of the agents or at the attorney's office. Then you're going to stroke a check for the appraisal if you're getting a mortgage loan. And then you're going to stroke a check for the home inspection. In addition, we'll encourage you to buy a survey for the property, and I'll talk more about why that's important. You could also have any number of additional inspections on the house. If you want a structural inspection, if you have specific questions about the foundation, or you may want to have a well and septic inspection if the property's on well and septic. You could have a radon test. You can do wood destroying insect test. We don't call it a termite test, because we also have carpenter ants and powder post beetles. Hey, welcome to North Carolina. And you can honestly inspect the dickens out of a property, and each one of those is going to be at separate cost. Now you might be thinking, but Lee Brown, that's all money I spend and I don't even have the house. I say, I know, right? Because this is a huge, complex financial transaction, and all of those inspections, all those additional costs help you know exactly what you're getting into. Now back to this home inspection piece. You might be looking at a house that is in pristine condition. It was kept by Susie Q Homemaker, and Susie Q kept that house in just the best, beautiful condition ever. Well, you should know that the home inspector looks at things beyond that beautiful staging. A good home inspection is visual. North Carolina does not let them poke and prod into the walls, but they're going to look at mechanical items. So that will be your heating and air. They'll look at your plumbing, electrical. They'll look at the structural items. So they'll check the windows and the doors and see if everything is hung properly. And they'll check out safety items and make sure it's got a carbon monoxide detector and it's got the appropriate egress for bedrooms, and you've got a smoke detector. The things that you probably assume are good on a house. Well, that's what the home inspector is going to check behind you on. Now you're thinking, but Lee Brown, how come you can't do it? Well, see, I know a lot, having done over 4,000 transactions in my career, but I'm not a licensed home inspector. And so I'm not really going to go pull the stove out from the wall to look for the anti-tip bracket. And if you are a buyer of a home in North Carolina and you've ever had a home inspection, I guarantee you that was on your list of items as, an anti-tip bracket on the stove that will keep the children from falling and having the stove come upon them if the door comes open. It's a bracket that the manufacturer includes so you can hook your stove to the wall, and we can have a adult beverage later and discuss if we really think that bracket in this little sad sheetrock is going to stop a stove, but that's a different conversation. It's on their list. And in fact, as a buyer, you might see that item and say, what did I pay for? Well, if that's all the inspector found, then you bought a great house. But quite often the inspector is going to have a list of things that you didn't know to look for. They'll look for a good seal up under the toilet in the hall bath. We don't want to have purple on the vinyl up underneath. And if you've ever seen a beautiful shade of lavender up under the toilet in the hall bath, that comes from a leak that's gone up under the vinyl. Your home inspector is going to point that out. Now, I might see it with my realtor eyes, but I might not. The home inspector is going to look for things like cracks in the sheetrock that don't look like they make any sense, or maybe they're displaced. That home inspector is going to have a moisture meter, and so if you see a little bit of moisture on the rafters up in the attic, they can see if that's an active leak, or maybe that's a stain from where a great wild gully washer sent some rain in at one time. They're going to check all of these things, and then they're going to prepare that list. And now, as your realtor, you and I are going to look at that list, and we're going to decide if anything is worth you destroying the deal over. So for example, I sold a house once upon a time that was built on top of a natural spring. And yes, it was built on top of a natural spring. Now, I did not see it because it was a short crawl space, and I am a medium-sized, medium-aged person, and so shimmying into crawl spaces is not my strength. But this buyer felt like it was important to have a home inspection, so the home inspector shimmied up under the house, and up under the dark, dark corner, way back away, was a very, very wet area, and upon investigation, we discovered the house was sitting on a natural spring. Now, if you're sitting there thinking, but Lee Brown, a natural spring can't be fixed, you are absolutely correct. You can't exactly make that water go away because the Lord hath provided that water up under that house. And so at that point, the buyer and I had to have a conversation. Do you move forward and buy this house knowing what you know, or do you terminate the contract and go buy something else, knowing you're going to be out the dollars that you invested in the deposits and in the inspection? This buyer, with all the warnings and all the waivers and all the information, elected to move forward. And then, of course, 6 months after closing, she said, I really wish I'd thought about that. And I said, baby, we talked about this. I tried to get you to think about termination, but she didn't want to. And so that's what we have, these very deep, heartfelt conversations about what a repair item can mean to the house that you love. Because you might be sitting there thinking, but Lee Brown, that natural spring was in the crawl space. How's it going to affect her inside the house? Well, that's one of the things you have to work your way through, and the home inspector gives you enough information to make those choices. Now, you're also thinking about what else they could find on this house. Well, they only find certain things, as in they know what's happening today. One of the little known facts about a home inspection is that it's only good for 24 hours. And you're thinking, but it should be good for... No, it can't be good forever, right? Because we go through heating and cooling seasons in North Carolina. And so when things are off and on, they do break. And also when it is the dead of winter, you're not going to run that air at full blast and have a good feel of it because the outside temperatures don't make sense. And in the summer, if you turn the heat on full blast, honey, you might not even know if it's 100 degrees outside and 90% humidity. You're just hot no matter what. And so the inspector is going to help you get a feel for those things, but on that day. Now, as the house goes along in the seasons, you may find things that break. So you have to let go of wanting to blame the inspector for things that continue to break. Because one thing you should know about houses is that because they're built by humans, things break. And that's part of the pain of home ownership, but the joy of home ownership, because if the dishwasher dies, guess what? You can have a cool one with all the new bells and whistles and you will love it all to pieces. And that's just part of the process. Your realtor, me, I want you to know what you're getting into so that you can plan down the road, so that you can say these windows are 15 years old and they might last me 25 years and they might last me 17. I want you to know that they're operating properly right now so that you can then think into the future about how you're going to take care of this house and not have these deferred maintenance items. Now, as you're thinking about this inspection process, you should know your inspector is going to take a lot of digital photos. They're going to give you often items that aren't broken, but that you might want to keep an eye on. It's one of the little secrets of using a home inspector that really pay off over time, particularly if you're a first-time home buyer, because they'll show you some of the ways to maintain your house over time. That's worth its weight in gold. Now let's talk about one little angle of home inspections that gets overlooked quite frequently, and that's new construction. In fact, a lot of people want to buy a new home, and you know why? I can tell you exactly why they want to buy new construction. You ready? This is the secret. The smell of sheetrock. Oh, I really don't know why somebody has not made up a cologne yet that smells like sheetrock, and if one of y'all does, I expect royalties. But think about this. When you walk into that house, it's new. It smells new, it feels new. Nobody's ever sat down on that toilet. You get to pick the countertops and the counters and the floors, and nobody else has ever lived there. That's a really amazing feeling, but it doesn't mean it's perfect. In fact, no builder out there is selling their house as perfect. North Carolina general statutes provide for a 1-year protection warranty by the builder. Many use a third-party company, but they're required to give you a year's worth of coverage because 4 seasons, the house has to go through its heating and cooling seasons for you to know what you've purchased. So why do you need a home inspector if the builder's got to cover you for a year? Well, friends, the home inspector is paid to be your third set of eyes, to go through the house and look at mechanical, structural, and safety-related items so you know what you're getting into. The builder has to meet code. Those are 2 different things. And you should also be aware that some builders meet code and they squeak over the line. And some builders way above and beyond. They are going to meet and exceed and really make the code inspector walk through and just have a heart aflutter with how well that house is built. But those new construction houses that look perfect, they're built by humans. Humans make mistakes. So the home inspector's main job is not to attack the builder. It is to go behind them and say, hey, you missed this. Please tighten this up. Please fix this. One of the items that we can find if you bring the home inspector in early enough during the new construction process is bowed studs. Now you're wondering what a bowed stud is. Well, the house is framed, a stick-built house is framed out of wood members, and a bowed stud is not perfectly straight. So this is my example of a bowed stud. And you might not even recognize it until the sheetrock is hung. And then here comes sunset. And suddenly you see the shadow caused by that little bubbly looking wall. And you realize there is not nary a thing you can do about it once that sheetrock is up and you have moved into that house, because the builder is not going to pull down your wall and rebuild it. That home inspector, though, if they can catch it during the pre-drywall period, the builder can fix it. This is one of the reasons you do want a realtor in new construction, because while you're excited about the cosmetic things, we're excited about helping you know these little tips and tricks that will make that house more livable for the long term. And by the way, some builders don't like home inspectors. I'm just going to posit here that a builder that doesn't want a home inspector or a realtor on the property is probably a builder of whom you should have a very squinty eye and be very suspect, because they should welcome a third-party professional realtor opinion and a licensed third-party professional home inspector opinion. Now, I've got a lot of videos over here about buying new construction houses, lots of tips and tricks and info, so you can check any of those out. But in the meantime, just remember, when you're buying a house, yes, it's big, it's a lot of money, it's complex, but your realtor, we're here to help you create a team so that you will know everything in the process in a full, transparent manner, so that when you move in, you know what you bought, and then you can enjoy the community and stay put for a long, long time.